Hi there, my name is Dr. Manus, and in this video I'm going to cover an introduction to consumer behavior. Let's get started. So the first key idea is that consumer behavior is a process. And what I mean by a process is there are steps involved in when consumers make decisions and how they behave in the marketplace. Not only whenever they're purchasing goods, but whenever they're consuming goods and disposing of those goods and services. So let's talk about this in a little bit more detail. So consumer behavior is the study of the processes involved when individuals or groups select, purchase, use, or dispose of products, services, ideas, or experiences to satisfy needs and desires. So to unpack that a little bit, consumers may select a product or service, but they may not necessarily be the one who makes that end purchase, right? So, for example, if you're a teenager, you still live at home, you may select the restaurant that you and your family are going to go out to tonight. However, you may not actually be the one that pays for it. Mom and dad, or mom or dad may pay for your meal. So while you may select the product or service that you want, somebody else may actually be making the purchase. And same whenever we think about consumer behavior, this can be very broad in the sense that we don't necessarily just have to think of a product like an iPhone or even a service like a massage or a haircut. These can also be ideas or even experiences like going to a theme park, for example. So consumer behavior involves a wide spectrum of things that students, individuals, groups may do throughout their lifetime. So we'll get into that in more detail as we go throughout the different videos that are going to be involved in the consumer behavior course. So just to give you an idea of different stages that occur in the consumption process, we oftentimes, consumers, start out with some type of pre-purchase issues involved in that. So how does a consumer decide that he or she needs a product? And what information does the consumer use to decide between different alternatives, right? So if we think about this from like a vacation standpoint, maybe we're trying to decide where we want to go on vacation. So how do you choose between visiting Dallas, Texas versus Miami, Florida, or versus New York, New York? So how do we make those decisions, and what information do we use as consumers to make those decisions? And we also can think of, while we have the consumer standpoint, marketers are also involved in that process. So if we take the travel destination as an example, there's lots of material, definitely from Miami and New York, that hotels are trying to bombard you with information, how they can make your attitude towards going to one place over another. They're trying to compete for your attention. So how can a marketer really show what is going to be the best choice for you, and how they can convince you to choose from one alternative versus another? We also have to think about purchase issues. So while we've thought about the pre-purchase, we also have the purchase standpoint. So let's think about this from like a retail setting. So we'll use a different example from our vacation. If we're making a purchase and we go into, say, like a Macy's or one of the big box stores, how was our experience at that store? How was our experience? Did we have to deal with a lot of other customers in the store? Was the sales associate happy? Was she kind whenever they addressed you? What does the purchase say about me? What does my purchase seem like to other people? And from a marketer standpoint, how can you use different displays? How can you organize the store to make it more convenient for the consumer? How can you organize the store to get the consumer to shop longer? There's lots of different things that marketers consider during the purchase stage itself. And this does not only have to be at a physical store, this can also be, if we think about from an online standpoint, how can an online store be organized to make the experience more seamless? So lots of factors to consider during the purchase standpoint. And then we also have post-purchase issues. So the product or service that you purchased, did it work out as you expected it to? Did it make you happy? After disposing of it, say, for example, it's like a food product, are you able to dispose of it in a way that's environmentally friendly? And what do we think about that? From a marketer standpoint is how can I connect with that customer and maintain that connection for a longer period of time? While previously in consumer behavior we thought of the consumer experience as very linear, right, from that pre-purchase, purchase, post-purchase. Now, a lot of research and experience in the market has shown that customers and consumers, they really have more of a journey, right? They identify that they may have a need to make a purchase. They may have different options that they're trying to compare. The store experience, the cashier, lots of different factors involved in this customer journey. So sometimes the customer journey can be very different for different experiences, right? It may not just be that very linear pre-purchase, purchase, post-purchase. There's lots of different steps involved in that journey to the end result and to the end result of what happens after you make that purchase. You use the product, you may need some support, you may make a repeat purchase, lots of different factors involved in that. Or it may be you may not need to make a repeat purchase, but it may be something that you have an ongoing relationship where you make a different purchase from the same company or brand. So the customer journey we can think about as an expanded view of the stages in the consumption process. So our next key point is that marketers try to understand the wants and needs of different consumer segments. So we can think of consumers, all of us in the world, that we have different wants and needs, right? We have different tastes and preferences. So marketers try to break up consumers in distinguishable ways to be able to market to them more effectively, right? So oftentimes we can think of the best example, and one that I've used in previous semesters, is we could segment consumers based on age, right? There's a product that is called Depends, and Depends is an adult diaper. Well, most often these Depends or adult diapers are used for elderly consumers. And so to effectively market to these elderly consumers, marketers have to break up the market into different segments so that they're not wasting their time marketing to consumers who will never actually use that product. So, or may not ever need that product until very later in the future, right? So breaking up the market is an effective way for marketers to target those and to get to those consumers who actually will use and could need that product. So we can think of this, the main idea is that consumers are different, right? And there are the standpoint that there are heavy users. So these are going to be, we could segment the market based on those who use the product quite a bit. This is a general term. Heavy users are those who are considered the most faithful users of a product or a brand. However, we could also think of the 80-20 rule. Many of you may have heard of this, but the 80-20 rule is more specific. The 80-20 rule is that 20% of customers account for 80% of our sales. So if we focused on that 20% of customers, then we're going to effectively make up what we need to do as a company. And so oftentimes that is why if you've purchased from the company before, they want to continue retargeting you because they want you to become a repeat purchaser. We could also segment consumers based on demographics. One was age that I've already discussed, and age is pretty important because there are some products that are definitely marketed to younger people, and there are products marketed to older people. We could also market products based on gender, so we could separate men and women. There are some products that are definitely targeted towards men more than they are towards women. We could also target based on family structure. So we could think about some people may be single, right? And people may be targeting single consumers, whereas others may be targeting married couples. And marketers may also be able to segment the market based on those who have families. So, right, they may have a couple of kids, and they're targeting those in a certain way, like for toys or different things that those families need different products than somebody who's single. And what's nice is, like, if we think about online segmentation, if we're making ads like on Facebook or Instagram or even Google, we can target people based on some of these factors. We could also segment the market based on social class or income. In later lectures, I'll be talking about social class and income in more detail. But for now, we can think of there are different income brackets, right? All across the world, people segment society based on social class and income. And those with higher income, like wealth management services, may be targeting those with higher incomes versus those with lower incomes, because that is their client, that's their demographic that they want to actually target because they know that's where they'll make their most money. We could also target based on race and ethnicity. We could think about this from like a food standpoint, that there's certain ways that, like McDonald's, there's a video that I will include in our learning modules, that they target different consumer groups based on their race and ethnicity. We could also target based off geography, right? Certain areas have different preferences, and that can be a geographic thing. And so it would be helpful for marketers to be able to segment different markets based on geography. And we could also segment consumers based on their lifestyle. This goes somewhat into the family structure, but lifestyle is more general. It would be in terms of, what they do as far as hobbies, and it could also go into like their political affiliation. Lifestyle is much more general and can encompass a lot more factors. And many of these things can be done, like we could look at the census data and see, like in a particular geographic region, who votes more, like if that county or area votes more Democrat versus more Republican. And there's different ways that tactics that marketers can use to target people in these different areas based on their lifestyle. So that gives you a broad overview of marketers can effectively target and segment consumers through the use of big data. Big data has become more and more available over the past few years, and it's a term that has become ubiquitous, with having many different data points and a large amount of data to be able to understand consumers in different ways. Now, one way that big data is used is through database marketing. And database marketing is gathering, consolidating, and processing consumer data. And if you think about, if you use Amazon or Walmart and you shop, you have an account, these companies are collecting data from you as you use their different services. And so they have a lot of different data points that they can use to understand you better as a consumer. One way they do this is to have more of a relational exchange with you. That's the reason why they're using database marketing, is so that they can have an ongoing relationship with you, because a lot of these companies understand that these discrete exchanges, these distinct short duration, sharp ending relations, these exchanges, they are not effective for them to continue growing as a company. So they want you to continue coming back and maintain that relationship with you. So a process that database marketing might go through is that they try to send you information about different web activities, email campaigns, social. They're collecting different information from you, and this could be through your transactions. So if you say, for example, you have like a loyalty card at a restaurant or even at a grocery store, they're collecting information on your transactions. They also, what you do on like their app or their website, they're collecting engagement data. And what they do is that they go through and they clean this data, analyze it, segment consumers at a broad level. And then finally, what they'll do is they'll send different email campaigns and different things to you that are very personalized to you as a consumer. So our next key topic that we're going to cover is our choices as consumers relate to different areas of our lives, right? So this goes back to the lifestyle that we talked about. And so in pop culture, we can think of how we are actually influenced is through these different things in pop culture. We're influenced by sports, we're influenced by music, by movies, different things in the entertainment industry, what celebrities do, our heroes, our books, different things that we've experienced in our culture. We're highly influenced by those things. And with role theory, we can think about that much of our consumer behavior resembles actions in a play. And that means that we take on different roles in different areas of our lives. So in different consumption practices, we may alter what we do based on our role at that time. So you may have the role of a student. You may also have the role of maybe like a parent or a son or a daughter. You may also have the role as an employee. Maybe you work for somebody. So you have different roles in your life, and the ways in which you act in those roles are different based on those situations. So these are some other examples. You may be a team member versus a team leader. You may be a dad, a mom. There's lots of different roles that we're going to play throughout our life, and those roles are going to show us how we're going to act in these different situations throughout our life. And with these roles, we can develop different forms of consumer attachment to different things. So there may be self-concept attachment. This is where our product, service, or experience helps to establish our identity. We may also have nostalgic attachment. So the product, service, or experience helps establish a link with our past self. So this may be, we may have a nostalgic attachment to a particular product because that's something that we had used in the past. We may also have an interdependence attachment, and that's something that's part of our daily life, our daily routine. You could think about this as like maybe your favorite coffee brand or even your favorite toothpaste. This is an attachment that you have that, yeah, I love this toothpaste. I don't want to have any other toothpaste because this is the one I've always used. It does a really good job, and I don't like using other toothpaste. Same thing for coffee. You may have your morning coffee routine that you prefer the same cup that you use for your coffee, the same brand of coffee. Like me in the morning, I like a particular cup that I use, especially if I'm going out the door and needing to go somewhere. I have a cup that I prefer to use versus other thermoses that I've been given. So I've been given different cups by family members, but I prefer a particular coffee cup that I would use that one over some of the other ones that may be considered nicer. And then finally, we may have a love attachment to a particular product. And this is where it's more of the emotional feelings, like the passion, the strong feelings that you just really love something and you have this strong attachment to it. I'm going to have a video associated with the love attachment, and and some of these other types of attachment that I want you to look at, and there's going to be some questions involved in that. So you'll see that in our learning modules. Finally, our motivations to consume are complex and varied. This is our last key point that we're going to cover today. And one of the ways in which we can think about this as motivation is through the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm not going to go into great detail on that today because I'm going to have future lectures on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but we can think about our needs being varied and very complex because why we do the things we do as consumers, we may have reasons for that, but they are complex and they vary. It's important to understand what a need is versus a want, because we're going to talk about that several times throughout this consumer behavior seminar. And a need is something necessary to live and function, so you can't live without it. We can think of a need as like food. You need food to live and function. You need water to live and function. So these are like the very basic necessities for us to live and function as human beings. However, a want is something that can improve your quality of life, but it's not necessarily something that you have to be able to live and function. For whenever we think about need, this food that we have to have for us to be able to survive, that's something that is necessary. However, a want, we could think of this as like our iPhone. We could think of this as even a new computer. You may want that, but it's not necessarily something to live and function. A want can help improve your quality of life, though. So this covers us for our introduction to consumer behavior. If you have any questions about this lecture, please feel free to email me at kmanus@nmsu.edu. Thank you.